My name is Gord Miller. I'm the Environmental Commissioner of Ontario, and I'm releasing another annual report called Losing Our Touch. And this video is to talk about one of the matters discussed in that report. The topic is wind turbines and their effect on birds and bats. Certainly wind turbines are a controversial thing today, and we know there's lots of discussion about their effects on birds and bats. The Ministry of Natural Resources this past year has produced a new guideline dealing with a whole series of measures that wind turbine companies have to follow in order to minimize the impact on birds and bats and continue to monitor and reduce those impacts. And that's fair enough. I give that a reasonably good review in my report with one important recommendation. Now, I want to state very clearly that I'm very supportive of renewable energy generally and wind turbines in particular, but we want to do them right and put them in the right places. That's the key. And there's been much discussion about birds and the effects of birds on kills in wind turbines. Now let's put that in perspective. The data we have is that for every 10,000 birds that are killed by human activities and structures, 8,000 are killed by buildings, power lines, and cats, domestic cats. 1 of 10,000 is killed by wind turbines in Ontario. So there is a mortality factor, but let's put it in perspective. It is small, and many things we do in our day-to-day living, unfortunately, kill birds. Doesn't justify it, doesn't mean we have to forget about it, but it does put it in perspective. And in fact, one thing that we can do with respect to bird mortality is to put the wind turbines in areas with low bird activity. Now, fortunately, there is an international independent body that identifies areas across the world that are important bird areas. That's what they're called, IBAs, important bird areas. And the map behind me is a map of important bird areas in Ontario. Now, you may not see the detail here, but these red areas, mostly along the coast, sometimes internally in the province, are areas where there's biologically they're important to the bird populations. My recommendation in the report is simply to not put wind turbines in the IBAs. Right now we have some conflict in that regard, but let's just, going forward in the future, not put wind turbines in the IBAs, thus assuring that we have the minimal impact on bird populations. Just a word about mortality in bats. Now, bird mortality per turbine per year is about 2.5 birds per turbine per year, but bats is actually more severe. That's the bigger problem. About 4 to 14 bats is the data we have for Ontario per turbine per year. And bats, you know, are under a couple of serious challenges. Now, most of that bat mortality is 75% is among the 3 species of bats that migrate. Some bats migrate like birds do, and of course they're the ones that are prone to be run into wind turbines. The 5 species of bats that don't migrate, some mortality from the wind turbines, but they don't migrate, they hibernate. Unfortunately, they have their own challenge. There's a new fungus in North America in recent years causing something called white nose syndrome, which is essentially a fungal infection that affects the hibernating bats and kills a lot of them. So the bat populations are under tremendous pressure from white nose syndrome and to some extent from wind turbines. So it's worthy of close attention, continued monitoring, and we need more information on the biology of bats. So wind turbines make a valuable contribution. Other forms of energy generation, certainly coal, have impacts in the environment. I think the impacts are acceptable, but we require diligence, and let's stay away from the important bird areas.